Hey everyone, today for another vlog, and it's another cheery vlog. And I realize how much I complain and talk shit about the modern world in those vlogs. But I feel like it's important to talk about because it's been quite a dominant thing lately in my experience. And what I want to talk about today is the trap of the 40-hour work week. So this is pretty much textbook copy pasted from an article I just read, a pretty old one, like 2013, and it talked about how the 40-hour work week basically dictates most of what people tend to do as a result. So the trap goes as follows, and I'm going to expand on the 5 points. So the first point is that you cannot work less than 40 hours. You don't have a choice, right? It's just given. You either work 40 hours or like 35 hours these days, or you don't work at all. This is simply how most industries work. You cannot set your hour, you cannot work half time, you just have to work full time. Second of all, the result of that is that you have a lot of money, but you don't have a lot of time. And so activities such as, walking, meditating, taking care of yourself, being with your friends, activities that fulfill you, right? Those tend to take time, but they don't cost money. So it's the opposite of what you have. Uh, Third thing is you're probably tired because you sit all day. So this video is mostly about this video is exclusively in fact about office jobs because I don't have any experience in a manual labor type of thing or yeah, I'm a big nerd. I have a nerd job as well. So you're probably very tired because you sit all day and you don't have time to rest and to take care of yourself. And so what 2 and 3 imply is number 4, you gravitate towards spending, because you have a lot of time and money, you're tired, and the free time that you have it's all in the night as well, right? So it's not very motivating to do things by yourself. Plus, the reason why you might be tempted to spend is because you're not satisfied with your job, because a lot of jobs are not very satisfying. It's I go quite in depth in my blog post, but I mean I don't really write blog posts anymore. I kind of gave up on the idea of writing, but there I talked about all the factors of dissatisfaction. But yeah, it's jobs nowadays they're very bureaucratic and they're very yeah they're just very complicated and you don't just get any satisfaction from making something. So that's the number 4. And because you spend money to recuperate what you don't have, you're stuck. So that's the 5th point. You're kept stuck in this trap of needing money because you need it to recuperate from what your job doesn't give you, and because you don't use your free time to do something that can get you out of the trap, well, you're kind of stuck. So you're it's a it's a very closed loop, right? Like the job costs you things. On the other hand, it gives you money, and you use the money to recuperate from what the job costs you or doesn't give you, right? So that's kind of the way to summarize it. And the way you're stuck is because you're tired, you don't have many opportunities because all of the free time you have is at night or like in the afternoon at least, and because of hyper specialization as well. Hyper specialization, sorry, hyper special. It's a really tough word. Hyper slash specialization is the trend in which jobs are just getting narrower and narrower, right? So, nowadays people work in super narrow things, like they study one single subject at uni, and what they make money off is very narrow, very specialized, and this makes it significantly harder to change career. And this completes the trap. All these 5 things, they create the trap of the 44-hour work week. And it's quite a dire situation. Right? It's not very fun to look at it head on, but I think it's important to talk about because the trap is not foolproof. First of all, it's not like hermetic. It's not like there's nothing you can do, right? Like you know. So what are what are some of the weaknesses of the trap, if you will? Like what are the things the that someone could do to escape? Well, to me, there's one thing that is quite evident is that no one is forcing you to spend. money. People tend to gravitate towards that because in order to address their needs, but no one is forcing you to spend. And it's not even clear that spending money is even the most effective way to address your needs. In fact, it's not, right? What most people want are things that money cannot buy. Like, it's cliche to say, but it's really true actually. Money doesn't buy happiness. It's very important to have money, right? Like, of course, it's really important. It's worth saying because you need to survive and all that. But money gives you survival, but when it comes to like fulfillments, not so much. But survival is important for fulfillment, right? You cannot have fulfillment without survival. At least I don't really see how you could, but I don't know. But like I think what most people want nowadays is like a sense of community, a sense of belonging to us, like a sense of like belonging to something solid, right? Like feeling like you're part of a long-lasting generation, a long-lasting community that has a certain culture, and feeling like your future is uh, guaranteed or whatever, and feeling like you're making a positive contribution to the world, something like that, right? Things that are not tangible compared to what we buy. A community is not something you can just buy, obviously, or like being healthy and being at peace with yourself. Those are not things you can buy. So I think the most important thing I can see is that no one is forcing you to spend money on things, and I think it's important to do the work of listing what your needs are and seeing how you can adjust them better with less money, and perhaps even no money. Right? I think that's probably the biggest one. It's probably like the biggest part of the book, Early Retirement Extreme, which I think is a fantastic book. It's probably one of the best book I've ever read on being uh, independent in life. It's about financial independence, and it's not just about. It doesn't talk that much about money. It's quite funny. Well, kind of. It kind of talks about money throughout the entire book, but it's more about our relationship with money and our relationship with life and skills and how we acquire the things in life. It's more about that, and and the main thesis I would say about the book is well what I just talked about. The fact that uh, spending money is probably not the most effective way for you to get what you want, and even doing like even doing like trying to do things yourself, even if they are poor, it's usually far more satisfying and far more interesting, and it's a very worthwhile investment to learn how to do things by yourself. But the book talks about that better than I can in a short improvised thing, right? So it's probably the biggest one I can see of how to get after 40-hour work week is realizing that no one is forcing you to buy things. And adding to that, a sort of secondary point is the whole pressure around if I don't buy this, then what will other people think of me? I don't know if I talked about this in a vlog or anything, but like this whole idea of like other people, it's really damaging because, and I'm not talking about the fact that you shouldn't care about what other people think. It's I'm not saying that. I'm talking about something a bit more literal with the words, right? Like when people say other people will see me as crazy, like just think about it for a moment. Like, what do you mean by other people? Like, who are those people? Who are those people really? Like, can you list them? Can you count them? Because the word other people makes it sound like it's like a massless, like it's like 500,000 people who will judge you if you do something. The reality is that you'll probably only have like a few people, like three, who care if you do something different, right? Like, I don't know, let's say you go to work with an older car, like it's not new. Like, how many people will actually care? How many people will even notice that, right? That's the first question. Second question is how many people will even care about that? I can guarantee you that most people don't give a shit about your life. That is what I would say to like myself, my younger self, um, when it comes to this, caring about other people. Because yeah, it's a term I don't like nowadays. The term other people. I try to be more literal, you know, for example, my family might, and even more specifically, my two parents might notice that and confront me with that, whatever. But like because the reality is that it's only a few people who tend to swing our judgment. Like as sad as it is, usually it only takes a few people to change our to make us doubt ourselves. But at the same time, similarly, you can view it as a good thing because it means that you only need to be good at standing up to a few people to make a change, right? So I think it's important to look at it the other way around as well. So yeah, what else can be done to avoid or like get off the 40-hour work week? Well, what I've been doing lately is I've just been like increasing the time that I'm at work, and I basically just use it to I'm using more and more time at work to do what I do on my own time, right? So basically, I've learned how to pretend to work, and I constantly do it nowadays because yeah, like I could invest time in my work, I could focus, but like it's not like I want to stay at this job forever. Whereas, if I invest time in myself and all of that, it will always stay with me. So it just makes more sense for me to pretend to work and to do things on my own. I mean, not everyone has the opportunity to do that. I'm kind of privileged because I work at a as a desk job, and it's very bureaucratic, so no one really notices if I don't if I'm not productive. So I realize that this is very privileged, right? But I think it's important to take advantage of this privilege. If you're in this position, I would highly recommend you to learn how to. If you're in this position, you don't like your job. I mean, I assume that's the reason why people would click this video. Um, I would highly recommend people to learn how to do things that can advance their own life during work because it's so difficult to like like once you're coming home and you have to like do stuff on top of that, it's really hard. It's really really hard. And that's the whole point of the trap, right? Is that it is possible to do things in your free time, but like, will you actually do it? Like, will you actually do it when it's like late at night and you're tired from an 8-hour workday? It's hard. I think it takes a really special type of person. Like the whole idea that someone can just work a full-time job and in their free time they can work on their own personal projects. To me, it has become to me quite a crazy thing. Like, I don't think this is how it works. I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't really believe in this story anymore. I mean, I'm still doing it to some extent right now, but like the pace at which I'm going is so incredibly slow. Right? Like I barely draw every day. I barely draw on a day-to-day basis these days. And whereas if I had, had free, if I had full time, I could draw like a solid 3 hours a day easily, and I could take care of myself even more than how I am right now because of my job. But yeah, the tiredness issue is probably the biggest one. So what I've been doing lately is just taking care of myself in terms of physical health. I haven't been doing anything other than yoga, but it is better than nothing because honestly, yoga is really nice when it comes to the emotional part of health. Like it might not be like the most physically intensive thing, but it really helps with the emotional part of life, and that makes a huge difference in my experience. Um, yeah, I would highly recommend some type of physical practice if you can manage to squeeze it right. That's the whole problem about the trap of the 40-hour work week. Is that it's hard to take care of yourself, and that's what the article points out. Is that the things that you would do to take care of yourself, they take time, and the problem is that you don't have time after the 40-hour work week. You have money, but you don't have time. It's it's very well designed, Like I'm not a conspiracy type of person, but I think it's quite interesting how the modern lifestyle is almost like as if it was designed to be a trap. But I think it's more like I don't believe in this conspiracy that our world is shaped by a few individuals who make decisions. I think it's more of an evolutionary thing, right? So I think there's very much a trap, and I think there's much an intelligence to the trap, but I think it's more of an evolutionary design of the trap rather than like someone who designed it. I think it's simply that, hmm, interesting. How did the trap come to be? I'm not sure. What what's a really interesting point that the article points at the end is like how everything about the 40-hour work week is to benefit the economy, right? So the whole thing about people being dissatisfied is that it leads to more people buying things, and that was a huge point of the article as well. I think that's probably the main. I think that might have been the name of the article. Right? Is the fact that uh, the um, the person writing the article talked about how they were a lot more inclined to buy things when they started working again, in the usual like office job type of deal. They were a lot more inclined to buy things, and those were not like huge impulsive purchases. Those were not like huge purchases, but they were more like small impulsive purchases, with the idea that it's okay to spend like €5 on something because it's just €5. Right? I earn like 40K a year. You could probably think about it like this. So it's nothing, right? It's kind of this idea of of yeah, when you have when you constantly have money, you're a lot more inclined to spend money, and this is very good for the economy, of course. Um, the problem is that the economy is one thing, and the quality of life of people is something else. And it seems that the trade of modern society is that the economy is the most important thing, uh, but it's all at the same time it's kind of questionable whether the economy is doing good. But let's ignore that for now. The economy is the most important thing, but on the other hand, the quality of life of people is not doing too amazing. Like you just look at like health, physical health, such as obesity is on such a high rise these days, and you have depression, anxiety, social isolation, and all that. Like, yeah, it seems like there has been a trade between the quality of life of individuals and the big numbers of the economy. GDP go up. That's a good thing, right? This sort of seems to be the theory of modern society. And again, with the conspiracy thing, I don't think this is a deliberate decision by people because I don't think that anyone decides what the direction of society is. But I'm not really sure why the trap of 40-hour work week came to be. Like, what function would it serve? I guess the function it serves is that it keeps the people who ultimately produce the things, right? Who produce and buy the things trapped. Because like the people who manage other people, they don't really produce, right? It's more like they coordinate and they benefit from the system. But yeah, I guess the trap would have come to be because it just keeps things as they are, and it just keeps like how to say people that can produce and that can consume as they are, rather than like as people who could like be more independent and be less impulsive, less addicted, and just be more more with themselves, fine with themselves. So it's kind of it's kind of a fucked up thing, right? It's sort of like we have created a parasite that is society, and now we cannot live without the parasite because it has it has infiltrated our life so much that now we cannot even like conceive of a life, or we don't even have the skills to live without the parasites, so to speak. Um, I'm thinking about how most people's most people's skill set is has very little to do with actually feeding themselves, right? It's all about navigating the world of society, the world of shadows, as I would call it, in reference to Plato's cave, Allegro of the cave. Seems that the world we live in is very much the world of shadows rather than anything real or concrete, or the world of 2D really when you think about it, because we spend so much of our time on screens that a shadow is also a 2D thing, and it's it's quite appropriate that our ability to navigate the 3D real world has been really really awful lately, but our ability to navigate the world of 2D, the world of screens, seems to have been way way up on the rise, right? So, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to expand on that now. I could talk about it in a video, but I feel like this is kind of a good overview of how I view society. The important thing, I hope I've been clear about it, is that there's absolutely something that people can do. And I remember this really interesting passage in the book Early Makes You. Maybe it's not in the book, maybe it's just in one of his blog posts. But he talked about how it's probably easier for a lower class person to go to reach financial independence than it is for a middle class person to reach financial independence. And the reason for that is because of the spending habit, right? The lifestyle inflation associated with being middle class. Because the lower class people, they just deal with the fact that they don't have money, right? Because they don't have a choice. It's not like they can spend money on shit they don't need if they could. They don't have a choice. Whereas a middle class person absolutely can, and as a result, they become entitled to having some things in their life. So that's lifestyle inflation, right? So you tend to buy as much as you can afford, really, and when you have like really when you have like extra money, you tend to spend it, and you tend to spend it rather than like saving it. And like what was once luxury when you were lower class, for example, is now considered a necessity, right, when you're more middle class. And I think that idea that going from lower class to financial independence might be easier than middle class to financial independence. I'm not sure if it's completely correct, but I can very much see how it could turn out to be true, because yeah, when I see what's how much like the degree of entitlement I see with like the people around me in my workplace is quite insane. Like I literally come out from school. I come out from university, so I'm really young, and yet the people around me, they're like in their 40s and 50s, and the way they just talk about life and spending is, to me, it's fucking crazy. Like it seems to me like they live in a world completely of their own, like completely disconnected from reality. And just the way that they approach food, that is worth something. That is worth touching just for itself. So I work at a big enough company that there is like an in-house restaurant, right? So it's like a cafeteria. It's not like a real restaurant. It's more like a cafeteria, and you get all the meals, and the meals are pretty good, right? So it's a pretty like, yeah, it is a legit restaurant. I think even people outside can come if they want, but they might have to pay more. I don't know. It's a pretty legit restaurant, right? And it's convenient as well because you don't need to leave the building. But like the degree of like whine, the degree of whining, like how much people whine, how much of my coworkers whine about the food that is uh, on the menu, to me it's absolutely crazy. It's like they complain about vegetables, they complain about seafood, they complain about like it's crazy how many things the coworkers I have around me, they don't seem to like. And to me it's crazy because like I don't think I've ever had a problem with the food. I mean, sometimes it's not the thing I like the most, but it's still like, I mean, food is food, it's just what you eat to sustain yourself. And yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to me like the degree of disconnected from survival and reality that we're at nowadays. Like food is not even treated as a way to sustain your body; it's treated as a form of entertainment. And I have found that this my ability eat, to be comfortable with eating a lot of things compared to other people, because my parents are Asian, right? So the food I eat is it's, it's a lot more like varied than what you see in the modern world, in the Western world, and this ability to eat. more things, to be okay with more food, right? Than most people. It's actually quite important. Like it's not. I wouldn't say I wouldn't call it a big thing, but it's like it's one of those things that when you add like 5 of them or like 10 of them, then suddenly it compounds to be a really big thing. Also, yeah, I've also become better at handling hunger lately, which also makes a pretty big difference when you compound with all the other small things. Because it just makes you more independent. It just makes you less reliant on this whole thing of the modern world. And this is why I bring this up, even though this might not be obviously related to the 4-day work week. Like the reason why people complain about their job and they never leave, it's because, as sad as it is to say, it's probably because they cannot leave. Because they are stuck in this entire routine and lifestyle that is completely dependent on the modern world. And food is actually a pretty big component of that, I would say. And spending is the biggest one, right? Spending is the biggest one, but I think food is a pretty important one as well. And yeah, it's it's really, I'm aware of how much I talk shit about the modern world, and it might not be the cheeriest of subjects, but I think it's quite important, especially because you have to understand that from my point of view, this is literally the first job I've had. Like I literally come out of school, and so for me to talk about it is a very important thing because I do not want to have this type of job for my entire life. I want to escape. It really is a trap. It really is a jail. It's a prison. This is the closest thing I can imagine hell is, honestly. To me, this entire trap of the modern world, it's honestly it just feels like hell on earth sometimes. But maybe I'm over exaggerating. Maybe it's not as bad as the word hell could make people think. But just I feel like the ability, the habit of talking to myself so as to not let myself slide into it, right? Like not get used to the modern world. It's really important. I would really hate to like just become a modern person. I really don't want that to happen to me. But at this point, I think I'm just too far off to be tempted by that. I simply think I would just hate that life so much. Yeah, but I really want to, you know, keep talking so that I don't, so that I can check my mindset and mentality. Yeah. So I'm a bit rambly these days, and also my ability to speak is kind of poor lately. But yeah, uh, thank you for listening. This is everything I had to say for today, and I'll see you next time.